Picture this, your primary software vendor just got hit by a massive AI-accelerated ransomware attack. We're talking a complete digital blackout. Yet 2 hours later, your operations are fully restored. It's literally like nothing even happened. How is that possible? Well, it's because your defense was proven, not just assumed. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're delivering a masterclass on the 2026 cyber risk landscape, and we're breaking down exactly how top-tier organizations manage to survive and thrive under actual fire.
But first, anchor yourself to this absolutely staggering reality. Despite supply chain attacks being arguably the most devastating threat to modern networks, 74% of organizations completely failed to mandate security assessments for their primary Tier 1 suppliers. They are effectively locking the front gate, but leaving the back door wide open for anyone to wander through.
So to understand how to survive this rapidly evolving landscape, here is our roadmap for today's masterclass. 1. The resilience reality check. 2. The 2026 threat landscape. 3. The hidden assurance gap. 4. Scaling defense under pressure. 5. Sector-specific structural risks. And finally, 6. Proving your defense works.
All right, let's dive right into part 1, the resilience reality check. This is all about shifting from action to actual evidence.
We are witnessing a fundamental mindset shift in the industry right now. The defining risk for 2026 is no longer a lack of security spending or a lack of action. It's actually the inability to evidence resilience under pressure. Organizations are fighting back, though. Half of them increased their cyber budgets in the past 12 months, and 33% have fully embedded cyber considerations directly into their executive business strategy. Security has finally moved out of the isolated IT basement and pulled up a chair directly in the boardroom, which is a huge step forward.
Moving on to Section 2, the 2026 threat landscape, we really need to look at connected disruption and the AI accelerant. When you dissect the recent incident data, a very clear pattern emerges. Phishing and social engineering remain the overwhelming entry point at 68%, followed by ransomware at 27%. Now, it's crucial to understand that these aren't entirely separate categories. It's a sequence. Phishing is the entry tactic, ransomware is the devastating outcome. Attackers are constantly exploiting human attention and fatigue to get that simple foothold before dropping the hammer. It's the knock on the door before the house burns down.
But fast forward your thinking to the next 12 to 24 months, and the anxiety shifts a bit. Respondents view ransomware as their absolute top concern at 57%. But coming in incredibly fast, right behind it, at 43%, is the rapid, near-term acceleration of AI-driven attacks. Make no mistake, this isn't some distant futuristic worry from a sci-fi movie. It is a present-day reality that is literally keeping security leaders awake at night.
There's a quote from a leading security analyst that brilliantly illustrates exactly why AI is so terrifying. They noted that artificial intelligence doesn't necessarily create a brand new threat landscape from scratch. Instead, it acts as a dangerous accelerant. It's like pouring gasoline on an existing fire. It magnifies the speed, the scale, and especially the believability of existing threats. Deepfakes, automated reconnaissance, highly convincing phishing emails generated in seconds. AI is weaponizing social engineering at a scale we've literally never seen before.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the hidden assurance gap, or as I like to call it, the illusion of preparedness.
I really want you to stop and ask yourself this critical question right now. Does your organization rely on the mere existence of a document called an incident response plan, or do you actually have empirical evidence that your team knows how to execute it during a chaotic, high-stakes crisis? The data reveals something honestly terrifying. 74% of organizations possess an incident response plan, sure, but nearly a third of them have never once rehearsed it. Having a plan you've never tested is literally like buying a parachute and never bothering to figure out where the ripcord is. When a disruptive attack hits, roles blur, communication channels go down, escalation paths fracture, and recovery timelines stretch way, way beyond what management assumed. Having a plan reduces uncertainty on paper, but rehearsing it, that's what actually reduces failure in the real world.
And it gets wilder. A quarter of organizations operate entirely on assumption, completely neglecting to conduct independent third-party assessments to validate their defense. Now, 56% are doing it annually, which is great, but relying purely on internal scorecards without external adversarial testing just means you are marking your own homework. Assumption is, for sure, the ultimate enemy of true resilience.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Scaling defense under pressure. This is where we look at priorities versus actual practice.
Notice the immense momentum happening right now in the middle market? Medium-sized companies are rapidly outpacing both their larger and smaller peers in deploying critical capabilities like backup and recovery, hitting 76%. Large organizations are frequently bogged down by immense architectural complexity and legacy tech debt. Small businesses, well, they often just lack the budget. But the middle market? They've found this perfect Goldilocks mix of regulatory pressure and organizational agility, allowing them to deploy these controls incredibly fast.
However, here is the catch. While basic tactical controls like multi-factor authentication are becoming totally standard, deep architectural resilience remains dangerously underdeveloped. Things like regular penetration testing and network segmentation, which is what actually stops an attacker from moving laterally through your systems once they're in, are both stuck at just 32%, and zero trust principles sitting at a mere 20%. Basically, organizations are building these incredibly strong steel front doors, but leaving the interior walls made of paper. Tactical adoption is progressing, but structural resilience is severely lagging.
Now for Section 5, sector-specific structural risks and how your industry context fundamentally shapes your exposure.
Cyber risk does not manifest uniformly at all. Your industry context heavily dictates your exposure profile. Take financial services, for example. They have highly tested environments. 63% conduct annual independent assessments. Why? Because they have strict regulatory oversight breathing down their necks. Transportation, on the other hand, faces severe pressure for system availability. Any downtime is totally catastrophic, yet only 42% test annually. And then you have construction, which relies heavily on incredibly complex, transient subcontractor ecosystems. For them, defense is much less about central control and way more about rigorous, continuous third-party governance.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, proving your defense works. Let's talk about the actual operating model for resilience.
I absolutely love this insight from a leading cyber strategy director featured in the research. True security requires totally abandoning compliance checklists. Because let's be real, nobody cares if you have a shiny piece of paper saying you are secure when all your servers are completely encrypted. True resilience is the ability to demonstrate, with hard, empirical evidence, that your controls perform under immense pressure and that your recovery timeline is predictable, not just hopeful. To actually achieve this, you need to structure your operating model around 4 distinct pillars. Step 1, protect. This means investing in deep architectural security, like network segmentation, not just superficial software tools. 2, validate. Conduct independent penetration testing and adversarial simulations. Again, don't mark your own homework. 3, respond. Actually rehearse your incident response plans and measure your recovery times down to the minute. And 4, evolve. Treat cybersecurity as a continuous, dynamic executive discipline, not a once-a-year IT audit. By linking these 4 steps, you literally turn good intentions into undeniable capability.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a critical thought to take back to your team today. The next wave of AI-driven, highly connected threats, they aren't on the horizon anymore. They are already here. When massive disruption inevitably strikes your supply chain or your network, will your organization's survival be based on the blind assumption that your tools will work, or will it be based on the undeniable, tested proof of your resilience? The choice you make right now, today, dictates exactly where you'll be in 2026. Thank you so much for joining me on this masterclass.